an AirTag success story, more Google privacy concerns, and a pushy Copilot. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the new MacVoices Discord, available to all of our MacVoices patrons. Sign up and join in the conversation in your new favorite online group at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, where we are, it's Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you here with us. We have people filing into the chat room now. Some have been there for a little while with us, seeing the pre-show antics, and I do mean antics. And so you could be too. Please come and join us. We have a number of topics tonight. We're going to avoid the obvious topic, which is WWDC, which comes up next week, simply because by the time the recorded version of this hits the feeds, WW will most likely have already happened, if not just be impending. So it kind of ends up being just, dead air. So we're going to skip over that because we have a lot of other things we'd like to look at, contemplate, examine, and see what the panel thinks about it. With that, let's go around the room, find out who's here tonight, and we'll go from there. David Ginsburg, howdy.
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 Good to be here.
Good to have you.
Yes.
I'm good. Good to have you.
Glad to be here this week, and it's a week before WWDC that we can talk about other things.
Yes, because at this point, everybody's news feeds are just filled with rumors, and see what comes of them. Marty Jencius is here, and I see his new cat in the background doing its thing. Marty, good to have you.
My new wavy cat. I'm doing good. I have some trips later this week. I'm heading to DC. But I needed a new distraction, so today I got a Insta360 8K camera that unfortunately it's not as intuitive as I'd like. So I'm gonna have to RTFM in order to figure out how to use it. So
if that's the brand new one, Marty, let's see. Today's maybe by the end of this week, maybe by beginning of next week. I did an interview with them at NAB when they introduced that camera.
Oh, okay, yeah. It
is very, very impressive. And there's so many features, I'm not surprised you have to read the manual.
Yeah, I really want to do the bullet time thing, like Keanu Reeves and play with that. But I've got some toys to swing the thing around my head with. But I've got to figure out how to turn it on and how to set it up and get the angle that I want on it and all that. So, yeah, RTFM.
You'll have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of having fun, Jeff Gamet is here.
You could have taken that so many directions, and yet here we are. Chuck, it's always a treat to get to hang out with you and with everyone else too.
Yeah, well, it's good. Always good to have you, Jeff. I always have to come up with a segue every week, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, but we get it done.
We get there together. It takes a village.
Yes. Yeah. Last but absolutely not least on the screen tonight, Mr. Webb Bixby in front of one of my favorite quilts. Webb, good to see you.
Chuck, good to be here. Sorry I didn't make it last week, but I got some good news today. My European style bag, also called the Wound Vac, was taken off today.
Oh, nice.
So I am untethered. So
good. Well, congratulations. That's terrific.
Now it may come back on Friday. We'll see, but we'll see how it goes.
This featured the new upgraded wireless model.
That's right.
Nice.
You mean of Webb or the bag?
Of Webb.
Webb. Okay, that's what I thought you meant. I just wanted to be clear. Webb's just sitting there. He's not.
Yeah. I got nothing.
Yeah. Well, I lied. I thought that Webb was the last one in the introductions, but Brian Flanigan-Arthurs just showed up right under the wire. Brian, good to have you.
Thank you. Great timing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna dive in, and we're probably gonna go all over the place. So I'll throw things in the chat room as we go, in both chat rooms actually, as soon as I can find our private chat room, which seems to be overlapping with something. There it is. Sorry about that. The first one, we've talked about some of these before, but AirTag, this is from Apple Insider. AirTag crucial recovery of $5 million of stolen tools in Metro DC, and the picture is worth the loading. I mean, it just looks like these people were just out stealing everything in sight when it came to tools. And basically, the story goes that someone had a bunch of tools stolen. So for the second time, for the third time, he put some Apple AirTags inside certain tools. They got stolen, and that's how they were able to track down the thieves. He involved the police, obviously, and they busted this ring of tool thieves. And so, it's just one more example of what the good that AirTags can do. We talk so much, unfortunately, about some of the bad things that the bad actors have done with AirTags. It's nice to point these out once in a while, that there are some benefits to using the AirTags and how you can use them. Anybody have any? I mean, again, this is one of those just like it's there, but anybody have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's great to have that kind of press with the article. If you noticed further down in the article, they could not help but say the stalking comment. And it's like, can we? I mean, it's important, but we've heard it already. So I don't know why they need to add that in every time, and then how it's been addressed and how it could make it less possible for people to do this or do that. And I was just, let's get the stalking comment in one more time.
Marty, as long as you're going to hop onto that soapbox, scoot over and make a little room for me, because seriously, First, when was the last time you read an article about how tile trackers were used to solve a major crime ring? And then, second, when is the last time you saw an article about tile potentially being used by stalkers? And the answer, as far as I know, is you haven't seen these stories. And the reason you haven't seen them is only because they're not Apple. And that and the fact that the real story with Tile, see, Marty, you shouldn't have let me on the box. The real story with Tile is, why wouldn't they even bother to even try to feign interest in our privacy and security until after the AirTag came out, and then it became a big deal. And now they've taken some steps, but not a lot. And anyhow, yeah, they didn't need to put the stalking comment into this article.
No,
the editor should have cut that part.
It's too bad, I guess. But this comes back to a comment that I think Kelly made last week about a story we were talking about. I don't even remember now what it was, but if it's Apple in the headlines, they beat on things. This is a great success story, but they can't help but just stick that needle in just a little bit. I don't quite understand why. I don't know if it's because this was Apple Insider, and so do they feel like they have to do that to remain "quote unquote" balanced? I don't know. I'm not a journalist.
You don't need to put that in there to be balanced. All right. So as a journalist, you are covering something which is a factual event. There were tools stolen from 3 states from multiple people. The total amount of the tools is several $1,000,000. Police were able to track down these stolen tools because there were AirTags in there, and then recover them. This is the story. That's it. It's not about balance. Does someone need to come in with a counter story saying, well, actually, the tools aren't stolen. They aren't worth that much. There were no AirTags involved. No, it's people confuse balanced stories with factual coverage, unbiased coverage. Those are not the same thing.
Good point. Brian?
Yeah, I thought maybe a different way could have been handled. Maybe they could have just had, links below this article and just say, some other recent AirTag stories in the news recently over the last X amount of months. And it could have been, yeah, of course you could have some ones on stalking in there, but it doesn't connect with the story itself. It has nothing to do with the main gist of what that article was about.
Yeah. This one just came up today, so this is sort of breaking, at least in the places I saw it. Although the article here from Lifehacker says yesterday, but this is just a little commentary on Google, and there are some breaches, I guess, or some practices they've had or issues they've had in the past with things that you probably should just be aware of. Privacy issues, according to them, affecting children, privacy issues affecting Waze, Google Docs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is another one of those that quotes some details from 404 Media, which seems to be coming up in the feeds a whole lot more as a source of good information. So, for what it's worth, I think if you have any privacy concerns, this is something that you should be paying attention to.
I mean, we all have privacy concerns with Google. Let's face it. Every day,
exactly.
Every day you hear stories of you've opened this privacy hole up, and that's the whole reason why a lot of companies just tend to avoid having any access to Google's tools unless they're paying for it, of course. But even that, you worry being Google Workspace, is that private, even though you're paying for a professional access to systems. I mean, they kind of have to be, but it's always a concern. I guess I grow tired of hearing about it all the time because unfortunately we all use Google. I'm a user of Gmail. I'm a YouTube content creator, so that's Google, and so you got to be concerned about the privacy in itself. So,
yeah, Jeff.
This is going to sound kind of crazy, but I'm kind of going to defend Google here.
What?
Wow.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, it's a good thing everyone's sitting down. All right. So I'll preface it with of course Google is a privacy and security nightmare. We know this. This is just par for the course. Now, the defense part comes in with this database essentially that was leaked. Okay, if Google hadn't been keeping track of all of these different types of incidents, many of which were just like one-off, two-off things, that would have been horrendous. They have an obligation to be tracking all of these things, every single little incident, even if it's just a one-off thing, so that they can watch for patterns, they can fix things before they become bigger problems, and sometimes they're more successful at this than others. But the fact that this document exists and has the sort of things on it that it does, in and of itself, to me, is not a big news thing. I'm glad they have the document, and like I said, it would be a bigger thing if they hadn't been tracking all of these incidents.
Now, see, that's That's a balanced statement, Jeff. I like that a lot because you're not wrong. I mean, the fact that these occurred is troubling, but the fact that they're tracking them is probably a good thing. So I appreciate the balancing out of this article.
Now, please, everyone, bag on them.
And I don't usually do this, but I will do it here, especially with this. Today's Tuesday. Tomorrow, I'll be releasing the first part of a two-part interview with with Joe Kissel about the latest edition of his Take Control of Online Privacy. And Joe not only shares some good practical advice, but makes some observations about your online behavior that are really, really interesting and worth listening to. So check that out. End of commercial. What's next? Hey, this I missed completely somehow. I don't know how, but when I saw this, I was surprised that I guess the EU is requiring Apple to allow Apple Wallet alternatives as well as some of the App Store things and Apple Pay alternatives.
No, not surprised.
Did anybody else know about this, or did I just overlooked it because of the circumstances?
In your defense, Chuck, you have to watch so many things, you can't see every single one of them. So don't feel bad that you had missed this.
Well,
I was going to say I didn't see it until you brought it to our attention. I'm not surprised. But for me, it just raises lots of questions. I mean, we've known about the alternative app stores, but the alternative payment process that's going to be available. The only group that comes out ahead in this is the banks. They'll get the tracking information. They'll get the purchasing information. They will be able to use that or be able to sell it for whatever purpose. And then a larger question I have, if Apple has to become fast and loose with their APIs and their access in terms of banking and that sort of thing, does that put Apple at risk? And if any of these other services have someone crashes in on that, who's to blame on that? Is that Apple or is that the service? So will it come back to haunt Apple even though it's someone else's security flaw?
Marty, it's funny you brought that up because the very last paragraph of the article says separately, the European Central Bank has complained to the European Commission about Apple's support for rivals to use NFC. It says that Apple is still denying rivals use of its secure element of its NFC technology, which means alternatives to Apple Pay will be slower and more cumbersome for users. So I don't know enough about this to speak really intelligently, but what I'm implying from that paragraph is that Apple developed something for use with the Apple Wallet, and because it won't share, its competitors are complaining that it won't give access to it.
That's the Secure Enclave.
Okay,
Apple's
this
not
does
going
not
to give anyone access to Secure Enclave.
Yeah, and but it's Apple is denying rivals use of the secure. This says element, Jeff. So if it is the Secure Enclave, then I understand
that's where
what
these
it is.
sorts of things are stored.
Yeah. So if Apple went to the trouble of developing this, why would it give its rivals access to it?
If Apple gives other companies access to Secure Enclave, keep in mind, I don't know all of the ins and outs. I am not a Secure Enclave engineer. But from what I understand, if Apple opens up Secure Enclave to third parties, it's no longer secure.
Was by definition. Well, this apparently the organization that's trying to do this, launch this first one is called Curve. which the article says is not especially well known in the UK, but reportedly does have over 4 million customers. It acts as an aggregator for bank and loyalty cards. So it'll be interesting to see what comes of this. Brian?
Yeah, something that came to mind. I was just wondering, more of a developer question maybe, but could a third party make their own secure element and doesn't, obviously all the engineering and developing to do so, and doesn't, you don't want to put that many resources and efforts into it? Or is it something that's too baked into the operating system where, that's not even possible? No, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it to comment. You're right. That would be something maybe for Jim or someone with developer tendencies. But it struck me as one more time, and we'll probably get to it later in the show, and at least one more article where it seems like competitors are saying that, well, because Apple developed it, I should have access to it. And I just don't get it. Let's see. Okay, so next one. So this, believe it or not, this is not me beating on Microsoft, okay, like I tend to do. But this is a question I wanted to ask you all. The article says that Copilot in Microsoft Word for Mac will greet you with an AI summary when you open a document. Jeff and I did a show on the British Tech Network a few weeks ago about how, and I got caught by doing a Google search and having it pop up an AI summary that seemed to be a little bit questionable. This idea that Microsoft and Google are both pushing AI so hard. I mean, now I will, according to this, I will be able to open up any document, even one I've created, and I'll get an AI summary from it. And Jeff, when I got caught with you and I talking, I typed a question into Google, and the AI summary popped up as what would, pardon me, it's hay fever season here in Pennsylvania. What would normally have been the first spot for a link.
Mm.
Is this a good idea to have it front and center this much? Are they in that much competition with each other? And hopefully come next Monday with Apple? Or is this just a case of AI is the flavor of the week, and so everybody's going to try to put it top of mind?
I think everyone. No, let me start that sentence again. Wait, I need an AI to summarize what I'm thinking for you. Okay, these tech companies, they are looking for ways to entice us. They want to give us siren songs that pull us in. So I guess if I'm going to take this metaphor to its logical conclusion, so that their platforms and services can pull us under and drown us. But no, they want us. They want to bring us in, and AI is something that can be presented to average users in a flashy, exciting way. So all these companies are trying to find really interesting ways to do it, and or at least ways that they think their users will find interesting. So giving you a summary of a Google, a Microsoft Word file when you open it, or a Google Doc, or whatever it is. I can see where, for some people, that could sound really compelling. That said, if all you're doing is creating flashy features and saying AI, at some point, people are going to get numb to the AI thing or buzz phrase, and you will have to come up with something else to entice them. And this is why I'm hoping that next week, when Apple shows off what they're doing with artificial intelligence, that it will not be this in your face, look at what we're doing, we're automating everything that you read so you don't have to. And and we're going to track everything you do, and make it so easy for you to simply search for something that you did 2 or 3 weeks ago. And instead, what Apple needs to do, hopefully, or what Apple will do, hopefully, is find ways to use these technologies that build on what they've already done, where it's something that makes what we do easier or more valuable without compromising security and privacy, and without having to be in your face to make it happen.
Anybody else?
Yeah, most of us will look at this and go, interesting, bad, good, whatever. I think this kind of feature is the kind of feature that scares the general public. They might think, oh, this is cute. But if they think a little bit further of it, the implications are the software, the device is reading everything that I use and put in. And where is that information going? How does it know me? All the tropes of AI gone crazy, gone wild, starts to get played out in people's heads about it. So I think it's bad marketing. I think it's a bad, the engineers ever, when they put this together, think, oh yeah, there could be some people who are freaked out by this because it implies we're watching you, which adds to all the paranoia about what's going on with AI already.
Marty, something in there, you're pushing me over the edge into something that I wanted to bring up. And I don't want to be an alarmist here, but I see more and more things that AI will do this for you. AI will do this, will summarize this for you. There was something today that AI will attend a meeting or take the meeting notes from something that you didn't attend and summarize it for you.
That's the Zoom thing. The Zoom CEO says
it's actually in Zoom.
You should be able to send AI avatars to all of our meetings in our place, and then our AI avatar will then summarize the meeting for us. So we can, go to another meeting?
So our avatars are going to be meeting with everybody else's avatars?
Yeah. Can you imagine an entire critical corporate meeting where it's just the avatars for people that show up and plan out the whole thing, and then dole it back out to the actual humans, and now the humans are expected to follow what their AI overlords just told them to do?
We could do a MacVoices live that way, actually.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I've worked with companies in the past that a meeting of avatars would probably be more productive than the meetings that were actually taking place.
Okay, that's fair.
But that's whole other discussion. I'm going to get myself in trouble for that one. So Mark Fuccio in the chat is saying counterview. And Mark couldn't be here tonight, but Mark, good to see you and thanks for being here. This is a battle for attention and trying to establish brand loyalty to Google, Microsoft, Meta, OpenAI tools, which is a fair point. If I've got something bright, new, and shiny, I want to put it up where everybody can see it. So that's very reasonable. But the question I'm starting to ask myself is not it. We're talking about how often people seem to be afraid that AI is coming for their jobs, and yet they are cheerfully, crafting queries for AI to do their jobs for them in some cases. And so what's to prevent the trimming of their job by someone who can create just the queries and have AI do it? I mean, basically cut out the lower end of the totem pole because you have the AI capabilities, or you have someone in that upper level that's better trained in AI or is trained in AI at all. And I'm just surprised at how many people seem to be jumping on this, not using AI as a supplement or as a tool, but basically as a replacement. Am I overstating the fact or the situation?
No, I don't think you are. It's people think that AI is coming for their job. AI is not coming for your job. Your boss is, and your boss is looking for the cheapest way they can to do a job, and the cheapest way is to not have people. So now we have tools that are being done or being used in a kludgy way to replace people. And in many cases, this is going horribly wrong. Now, the bosses that understand the value of the people who are working for the company, they get that you can use these tools in a way to enhance the people's productivity without eliminating jobs. So you have two managers here. The good one who wants to help you be better at what you do, and the bad one who just wants to get rid of you, and they see AI as this magical way to make that happen.
There's a big conversation raging in the chat room, and I can't possibly do it justice, but they're debating things like Mac Whisper for AI speech to text transcript.
Mac Whisper's fantastic,
right? Because it's all done on device. It's never leaves the device. But I guess I'm taking a little bit higher view of it and just saying you better be careful how you use AI, and how much of you goes into it versus how much just straight AI goes in. Because you might be working yourself out of a job or being the first one that is deemed expendable. I don't know. Webb, you're quiet, and I think you have to have some thoughts on this. I know you.
Okay. As an employer, I got 450 employees. I don't necessarily agree with Jeff's position that one of the things that I try to do is to eliminate as much overhead as I can, and that's going to be in people.
Well, Webb, that's because you're a good boss.
But there hasn't been a system out that really relies on judgment. Okay, no AI tool talks about being a judgment or having good judgment, business judgment, whatever you want to call it. And I didn't take this position, Jeff, to give me such a pat on the back, but I appreciate that. But Chuck, you didn't want to get into what's going to happen at WWDC, so I'm not going to go deep into this. But I'm going to tell you right now that I know that come this time next week, I'm going to be thoroughly disappointed in whatever comes out of WWDC. I think it's going to be overhyped. I think it's being overhyped right now. I don't think it's going to do nearly what our expectations are. I haven't used Pilot on the Microsoft side yet, so I got to give it a shot. But we have banned the use of LLMs in my business, mainly because of the lack of corporate confidentiality. We've talked about that before. We don't have to go into it. Here again, the problem, if I look at the big one, the ChatGPT, the one that we all look at, it still comes down to there's no logic behind it. It just takes whatever it's out there on the internet, on the web, and just kind of regurgitates it back at you. It doesn't know, everything that's on the internet is true. If we use that as the premise, ChatGPT is the great tool for you. Unfortunately, that's not the reality of it. So, people cost money. Brian, you put the comment on here about fast food restaurants, and going to automated tools, but they're also dealing with $20 an hour employees. And that is a huge problem, and it's way, way overblown. And I, we're going to get into the realm that we don't want to get into, but the problem with be careful what you ask for, you just may get it. You're going to get $20 an hour employees, but you're not going to find very many places that's going to take that for that level of labor. So anyway, let me get off my soapbox.
Webb, I love the fact that you brought up the judgment part, because that's where, at least at the moment, we as humans can still add value to the process. I mean, you can do some factual research with ChatGPT.
You asked the right question.
If right, and this is something we've talked about.
Yeah.
This is almost becoming a new skill, a new job skill, is how to query the large language models. So, Brian, your point, Webb referenced it, but the idea that machines are starting to replace people. I don't know about you, but I had dinner tonight at Panera Bread. And the only interaction with a human I had was when I said thank you when I picked my food up. I went in, I ordered at a kiosk, I paid with my Apple Watch, and that was it. As opposed to, having a server or going to a counter and ordering. Around here, a lot of the fast food restaurants have gone to kiosks as supplementing, if not completely eliminating. And if you do walk up to the counter, they look at you like you have two heads. Like, what are you doing here? Go over there and order.
Yeah, and I've also seen in our area too, keeping on the topic with, as it relates even in table service restaurants, some of the local chain or the national chains sometimes will have a little tablet on the table, sometimes to reorder drinks, to place an appetizer order, things like that. I think sometimes to help with the lack of staffing sometimes that also exists, to be able for limited amounts of servers to handle many more tables, so they don't have to make as many stops per table and things like that. And I think sometimes the pendulum swings the other way. Sometimes places will try things to try to replace people with machines in some ways, and it swings back the other way too. I was just reading an article, and I'll see if I can find it, maybe to benefit the show notes, but there was an article I was just reading not too long ago about a lot of the supermarkets and how they were, switching a lot over to the self-checkouts, where one self-checkout replaces maybe 6 check lanes otherwise, and they're dealing so much in theft of people taking stuff and not being honest with what their transactions are, that they're finding that they need to bring back the check lanes again. It's more beneficial to the company in some ways. So sometimes it moves both ways.
And I may have read the same article or heard something similar, because there was a debate going on about if I go in at 9:00 at night, just as the shifts are changing, and I want somebody to check me out as opposed to me doing it, because I've got produce and all those things that never seem to have the right barcode on them, and I don't have the human option. I think this one gentleman said they refused to do it because he could check himself out, and he just walked out and left his cart of groceries and said, this isn't service. This is what I'm paying for. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.